Italian Football Podcast.
Next question. Igor Lipovat says, hi, question for the pod. If you were in Marotta's shoes, would you just drop Lookman and divert all the money to try for Donnarumma, considering the situation with Chevalier? Getting Gigio is a once-in-a-decade opportunity, and I feel Lookman kind of transfers can be achieved more often. What are your thoughts? Well, I'm going to read up all the questions we have about Donnarumma. CJ Barilla says, about Donnarumma, do you think PSG have treated him badly, and also just how much of a talent is Giovanni Leoni, who could now be joining Liverpool? And Roman D'Alessandro says, hi guys, couple of questions. Had to start with Gigio. Of the realistic landing spots that have been rumored, where do you think is the best option for him to end up? If a deal were to be reached with someone, would him running the season as a backup and potentially being the cup option be so bad? Also, I was wondering if you could build 11s of your current favorite Serie A players, including the manager and your preferred formation, not necessarily considering the level of player or balance, but just simply your favorites. What simply your favorites are for whatever reason. Cheers. Currently melting in 45 degrees weather in Las Vegas, so Mercato rumors on the pod are helping me survive. Let's start with Donnarumma.
Yeah, I'll start off with how PSG have treated him. I think he's been treated disgracefully, to be honest with you, for a number of reasons. First of all, this is a player who PSG would not have won the Champions League were it not for Donnarumma. Donnarumma won them the tie in the three knockout rounds ahead of the Champions League final. Donnarumma won them the tie against Liverpool, against Aston Villa, against Arsenal. And the idea that after that, he's just kicked out, not just kicked out, but they offer him a contract renewal for a massively reduced wage after doing that. But it's not just that, is that we have now learned that the contract renewal talks were all just, they were just for show. PSG never had any intention of extending his contract, because Luis Enrique came out on Tuesday evening and he said, "I take responsibility for Donnarumma. It was my decision to move on from him. I'm looking for a goalkeeper that suits our way of football. I.e., I'm looking for a goalkeeper that uses his feet, that's good with his feet." Right, which is something I remember predicting this 2 years ago, that it would come to this. Certainly didn't expect it to come after Donnarumma basically won the Champions League, but there, so be it. So the idea that they've been in contract negotiations for months and months, and during those negotiations, PSG basically gave him an offer which Donnarumma couldn't accept, and as Enzo Raiola now claims, his agent, after given an initial lowball offer, which Donnarumma was actually willing to accept, they then changed the terms and made the offer even lower after that. We find out at the end of this, midway through August, at a time when Donnarumma now basically has no time to find, or has very little time to find a new club and is scrambling around in a World Cup year to find a new club. When Luis Enrique comes out, admits and basically says that it was his decision and that they've made that, he wanted to move on to a new goalkeeper. So this had been planned out for months, and they've been pissing around trying to pretend that they're doing contract negotiations, and now it's come to this 2 weeks before the end of the transfer window. So I think it's been really badly dealt with. The way that he's just been chucked out of the squad, he's not even part of the Super Cup squad, which he should be. One, because he won them, he got that they're only in that final because of him. I think it's really, really bad. So that's the first point I wanted to make, Nima. I don't know whether you want to come back on that first.
I agree 100%. But at the same time, I have to commend Luis Enrique for coming out and taking responsibility for it, for being honest about it and saying what he wants. I don't think he was involved in these contract talks at all. I think that was the club more than sporting directors and stuff like that. I think Lucho has probably been crystal clear about not wanting to have Donnarumma and wanting a different kind of goalkeeper. I think that's obvious, and I think we should. I don't think we should throw any criticism against Lucho for that. I think it's great of him to come out and say it, to take responsibility for it, to be honest about it, to be clear about it, in ways that most coaches would not be, and I like that about Luis Enrique. I really, really do. I like that he is very straight and direct and forward and honest in his communication. Whether or not the decision is right or wrong, look, that's a scelta tecnica. We can debate that later. But I do think that the club PSG have treated him poorly, not Luis Enrique. I think Luis Enrique. I think there's an important nuance there to make. If a coach doesn't believe in a player, then that's his prerogative. That's his right. We can disagree with that, but I don't think we can, criticize him for making that decision.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice if Luis Enrique had said this a month ago and not 2 weeks before the window.
Yeah, but I think his hands were tied. To be honest, I think
maybe
I
he left it up to the club. But I just think to leave it this late. Whoever made that decision, it's not right. The other point I want to make, though, Nima, is, and this is a general point, is how has football become so upside down now that we're now in an era, and I know who you're going to blame for this, but
it's Arsene Wenger. It's Arsene Wenger. It's all so
upside down now that for forwards, it's more important to hold the ball up than it is to score goals. For midfielders, it's more important to run and press than it is to pass. For defenders, it's more important to pass the ball than it is to tackle. And for goalkeepers, it's more important to use your feet than it is to actually save goals. So you've got Donnarumma, the best goalkeeper in the world at saving goals, and nobody can argue with that, is apparently not good enough because he's not good with his feet. Now, I'm not blaming Luis Enrique for that. I'm just lamenting the fact that this is football.
This is what football has become. Yeah.
How has football become so upside down? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it is. It's Guardiola and Wenger. They're patient zero for this sickness. And it makes the game less interesting to watch. It makes it more boring. I think we've never had so few technicians in football as we have right now, as a result of that. And it's not. I think that's I think Pep Guardiola and Arsene Wenger have destroyed it. I think they've destroyed the game. It's become completely upside down, and hopefully this era ends soon, so that we can go back, because everything is cyclical in life, including this. So no, I'm with you on that.
I tweeted this out, and to be honest with you, most people agreed with me, but there was some, you got the brainwashed ones that are kind of like, oh yeah, but there is still beauty in the game, which is nonsense. There might still be some beautiful things. Yamal is still around, and he's amazing. But,
of course, there's beauty.
But they're rare. There's so much of a rarity, or they've just disappeared. So, like the beautiful things in the game, and I gave a long list of examples that have disappeared. And things like long range goals, free kick goals, 2-man attacks, number 10s, specialists, even dribblers to an extent. All these kind of chips from over the goalkeeper. Now, it's not just one reason that this happens. There's other reasons, but the general kind of mindset of what football should be today has played the biggest role, probably, or one of the biggest roles in creating this environment where these things are just very rare, or they just disappeared altogether. And I just think that this Donnarumma situation, where he's won PSG the Champions League with probably, I can't remember a greater run of games by a goalkeeper in the knockout stages of a Champions League. I mean, his performances in those 3 knockout rounds before the final were just ridiculous. Some of the saves he were making, it was just insane. Against Arsenal, even Arteta said it in the game. He goes, "We've lost this." I mean, Arteta is a bit of a moaner and he uses excuses, but he was right. We lost this tie because of Donnarumma. Those saves he made were impossible saves. And you get rid of this guy because he can't use his feet. I mean, it's
look. I think that's fair enough. But I mean, look, if he doesn't believe in, if a coach doesn't believe in it, then at the
end of the day, it's up to him. At the end of the day, he has every right to play the philosophy that he wants. I'm just saying, I think also part of the issue is, and I saw a couple of comments from people here were saying, look, it's not Guardiola's football. No, it's not Guardiola's fault that football has become like this. He would just created a style of football that worked for him. The problem, the people whose fault it is everybody else that tried to mimic him, including entire footballing countries like Italy, who completely abandoned the school that worked for them in order to copy the Guardiola school. And now everybody does it. Everybody tries to play out from the back using the goalkeeper. Everybody, has the same formations. Everyone plays wingers. No one plays, and I think that's a fair point, to be fair.
Yeah,
Because
no, I think that's very fair.
At the end of the day, Pep Guardiola and today Luis Enrique has every right to use the system they think works best for them.
Yeah.
The problem is how this has become like a widespread kind of like this is how it must be, and you can't win unless you do it. And the worst thing is that this is going right down to the youth group. So if you go to Italy, they're now training players to create players like this. So the next generations are all going to be thinking and playing like this.
Yeah. Horrible. But to answer Igor's question about Marotta and Inter can't afford Donnarumma, pay his salary or his wages, one or the other. You can see that with Lookman. They can't do that. So they can pay a lot for Lookman, but they can't. But his wages won't be that high.
PSG are asking 50 million at the moment. It won't be that much. That's just a laughable amount for someone whose contract runs out in a year. But he's on a salary of like 10 plus 2 in bonuses, so 12 million euros net a year. Net. So yeah, not going to happen.
No, not going to happen. And also, where's he going? Where Roman D'Alessandro's his question to answer his question.
It has to be the Premier League. The only, I mean, you could say maybe Bayern is a very outside bet, but their plan was to keep Neuer for one more season. So,
he's not a sweeper keeper, Donnarumma, is he? I mean, they like to play with a sweeper keeper.
Again.
So I don't see how Donnarumma does that.
It would be ironic, though, having everything that we've said this. It would be ironic if he goes to Manchester City.
I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. Unless
it doesn't make sense to me. The only explanation I could give for that is it's a club signing and Pep Guardiola is leaving in a year, and they've decided we want him and he's going to be our future, our long-term number one. Just deal with him, Pep, this season. Yeah, that can be the only explanation.
That can be the only explanation, but it can also, and it could also be that maybe Guardiola wants to change how he plays with the goalkeeper, or similarly to when he brought in Erling Haaland, and he didn't really use number 9s like that before he signed Erling Haaland.
I don't see it, because I think it's been dogmatic of Pep has been your goalkeeper. I mean, he created that. The whole goalkeeper must be able to use his feet. That was his creation. So, but like you, it doesn't make sense to me. But I guess we're going to find out.
We're going to find out if I hope he sees out his contract, to be honest. I hope Donnarumma plays hardball and sees out his contract. I really do.
If there wasn't a World Cup, I would say I hope the same. And put the pressure on Chevalier and be a big, massive shadow over him. Exactly. And let's see what you can do with that big, massive shadow of Donnarumma hanging over you. But because it's a World Cup year, he needs to play. We can't have him sitting on the bench for a whole year, because they've made it clear. After the Mbappe situation, it's also club policy. We're not going to allow it to happen ever again. So, we need him to move for the Italy national team for the World Cup. We can't have Vicario bloody being our goalkeeper.
Vicario, God bless. He was good at Empoli, and then he went to his aerial deficiencies became very evident in the Premier League.
Just a bit.